Welcome back. In this episode we run you through the bed fly conversion, which has to be in the top 3 modifications you should be doing to your Jayco camper trailer. It's very easy. We've done a few little modifications to make it that little bit better. I've just had to take it down for a rego inspection, so we thought we'd put it up and show you how it all goes together. Come along and we'll show you how. So firstly, you still retain the 4 poles that you have with your standard bed fly end. What you do, however, is modify the ends of each of the poles to make them adaptable onto your camper trailer. So you have 2 of these, which are the 2 end poles, which would normally go on the far corners of your fly. You cut the bases off with the pointy end which anchors into the ground, and you fit one of these eyelet fittings. And you retain the end that loops onto your canvas at the other end. The centre pole, which goes from the top of the roof to the outside of the bag awning, it remains the same. You don't have to modify it. The centre pole, which would normally go in the middle, far end of the fly, you take 150mm off the narrow end and fit the eyelet fitting. The 150mm you chop off, it retains the end that goes into your canvas, but you put a receiver on that will clip onto the thicker portion of the pole that you just shortened. This pole that you just shortened becomes a crossbar that links from the pole at either end of the far end of the bed fly. And this is a secondary pole, but the same thing. You cut the base off and fit an eyelet to the end, and it goes on the far end. So this is the diagonal piece that goes onto the bed fly end. We will now quickly erect the camper trailer, and I'll show you the process that we go through to install the poles and get it all set up. For us, we find it a lot easier to wind the roof up halfway. You then put the poles on, get it all roughly into position, and then finish winding it up to the full position. Then you can adjust the diagonals and the roof and the cross brace to get it all nice and taut. What I've also set up is this small box, which is a kit of parts with a lot of spares that you might need for the camper trailer when you're using it. So in our case, we've got a modification to the bird peak that you put on the rear bar, but we've also got the nuts that go onto the fixings at the front of the van for the diagonal brace that comes down. Now, a lot of people get these loops with their Jayco camper trailers and wonder what they're for. These are our spares. We've got our other ones attached to the ends of the fly, and I'll show you exactly what you use these for. They're essentially to fix the bottom of the fly onto the handles or the tie downs, which makes it all nice and taut, so if you do get some wind, it doesn't want to blow the whole lot up. I think this is a fairly important factor that a lot of people miss, and in that case they think it's very unstable in wind. This makes a fairly big difference. But if you haven't set up a little container with spares such as bolts, we've got spare door latches, all little bits and pieces that you might use and need on the run, including these which are the receivers for the hockey sticks inside the bed ends, It's very handy to quickly duck down to your local Jayco or Camps Parts store, anyone that sells these spare parts, order them in advance, put them in a nice organised tray such as this, and you can carry them around for easy access when you're travelling. Takes the stress out of the camping experience. If something breaks, hopefully you've got a spare and you don't have to stress about it too much. So inside the bed fly, you've got your diagonal pole that comes up, and then you've got your old centre pole which runs from side to side, and you fit the new ends so it links through the pegs on the end of the standard pole. In the centre you still have the ridge pole that runs from the roof of the van to the outside, and it accepts the end of the old centre pole. But what you do is you fit the receiver that goes on to this brace, which links from one end to the other, and that just keeps the top up. If it was me, I would probably make this maybe 175 to 200 mil just as a test to see, because it feels like it could sit up a little bit higher. So on the front of these campers, what you do is you typically drill a hole through this lower outside floor support, and you fix in a M6 bolt that is around about 80 mil long from memory. You then would typically put a nut to secure that onto the frame, and then you have a secondary nylon nut that you screw on so it finishes just flush of the outside of the camper. So this diagonal brace simply slips over the bolt up to the nylon nut, and you want to adjust it out so that this pole isn't rubbing on the side of the van. Then you get your wing nut, which simply spins on and secures this pole to the side of the van so it can't pop off. It really is that easy. What we've done is we've got some 10 mil plate just to reinforce this connection a little bit more. So we've drilled 3 holes in it, 2 attached to this bottom frame support of the van. The middle hole accepts an M6 bolt, which we've got with a countersunk head just to keep it a little bit tidier. We've actually tapped this plate as well just to secure it a little bit more, and then put the nylon nut on. But you will find that you don't need to do that. That's just something we've done just to upgrade the standard connection a little bit more and provide that extra little bit of security or assurance, particularly if you're on rough roads. You've got that extra little bit of connection. If you're in high winds, it's shortening the cantilever of the bolt and providing a little bit more rigidity to this whole overall connection. But I think you'll find just using the standard M6 bolt coming out from the frame, bolted on with a nut, the nylon and the wing nut, that's more than enough to take the forces that are imposed by any wind on the bed fly conversion. Now, because this is a diagonal brace, it's typically, I find, probably under tension more than compression most of the time. The clamps seem to work perfectly fine, and you just want to make sure that you secure the roof of the fly to this pole via the loop onto the handle, just to make sure it doesn't pop off. And we've been in some pretty significant wind and we've never had a drama. Now, loops, I hear you asking. Yes, with your bed flies, you usually have these elastic loops which come with them. Most people don't know what to do with them, particularly if you bought a second-hand van. We were the same. What do you do with them? Well, their intended purpose is to secure this flappy bit of the bed fly onto the van. So you would typically loop it through onto the grab handle or something similar, and that gives it a little bit of tautness to tie it down, and more importantly, it seems to stop the roof or the eyelets of the roof popping off the poles, and it keeps it all nice and tidy. So what we've done is we've added this carabiner, and it permanently secures the loop onto the end eyelet to each corner of the bed fly. Then what you simply do is when you've set up, you pull it through, lock it onto the carabiner, and you can even fasten it up if you need to, just to make it a little bit more secure. It really is that simple. So we found setting up in windy situations, it's important to get this on as soon as you can. Because what this will do is it will help hold the roof onto the support and stop it flying up before it's all firmly fixed up and in the right place. The other important thing to remember is that you do up the Velcro on the corners of these gauze sections that hang down over the bed end. That actually keeps it all nice and tight and makes sure it's not flapping around and allows you to pull the roof down, particularly with these bed fly conversions where you haven't got the guy ropes pulling down. Making sure it's all together seems to work very, very well, and that forms a complete system, which is the bed fly end conversion. What you do is when you pack it up, we simply release the carabiner, you pop this through, you leave this on, we'll leave the corners velcroed up, and we flip the whole lot onto the top of the roof. That makes it very easy to roll up, and then when you come to set it up the next time, you roll it out and then you flip these sections back down again. Put the loops through and you're ready to roll. It really is that easy. On the rear of the van, we've modified the standard Superpeg detail just a little bit. What I use is a bin eye fitting that you get from BCF with a pin that goes through it. And instead of using the bird beak fitting that you would normally get with the Superpeg kit, I've got another receiver onto the end of it. You simply slip it on and put the pin through, and that keeps it all nice and secure, and it's a fairly easy thing to do. Again, my theory here is if you do have any uplift in a high wind situation, this pin is going to secure it a lot better than a simple friction connection that you get with a bird peak sort of fitting. I think either are fine. This just ties it down and secures it that little bit more. Now, if you have a tourer and you don't have this bumper on the back, you just have the round tube, I can't see any reason why you wouldn't do the detail on the front with a simple M6 bolt that comes through this bottom support of the floor, and then these poles would simply connect onto the rear the same as what they do on the front. That keeps it all nice and simple and works perfectly. So if you have a touring van, consider that setup, in which case you just do the same as what we've done. You go down to BCF and you get the appropriate receivers instead of the bird mouth fixings that you get with a Superpeg kit. That allows you just to slip it over onto the bolt, you put a wing nut on, and it works exactly the same as the front. Doesn't take very long to do, and in my mind, it's just as good as doing the bumper connection that we do on the off-road models. A lot of us convert to these camper trailers from, say, soft floors, just to avoid the time taken in setting up poles and ropes and pegs and stuff like that. If you're on a hard site where you can't put pegs in, this alleviates the whole issue of trying to tie things down, and it really does work so well. So I'll put a list in the description of the kit of parts that we use to assemble our bed fly conversion. We did this prior to Superpeg having their kits available. Everything I bought here came from Bunnings or BCF. All the fittings come from BCF. The hardware obviously you get from Bunnings or any other hardware store. I typically use good quality stainless steel just to make sure it lasts longer. If you use zinc and nickel plated, it's not too bad, but you will find it will degrade, particularly if you're camping in a lot of wet weather. These days you would simply get a Superpeg kit. However, if you want to do a few of the subtle modifications that we've done, it's probably easier just to buy the separate components as you require them to make sure you can assemble it together. But as I said, the list of parts will be in the description below. Please read my descriptions. I usually put a little bit of a narrative in on what the project is about and any bits and pieces that we've used. Anyway, I hope that helps you out and gives a bit of a better understanding of what the bed fly conversion is all about and how it goes together when you're setting up on site. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe and share around if you love what we're doing. We've got a lot more content coming. I just did the bed end cover plate modification, which was in a previous episode, and in next episode on the Jayco Swan, we're converting the narrow little cupboard into a pull-out spice rack so you can access all your pantry in a nice, easy manner. I know a lot of people have been waiting for that, so it's coming very, very shortly, hopefully in the next few weeks. If you enjoyed this, please like, subscribe to our channel, and most of all, get out there, stay safe, and have fun. Thanks for watching.